Hey, music fans, and welcome to SoundLab Studios. Today, I am going to be doing a video that I think is going to be very long, a very long video. And this video is going to be ranking every album in my record collection. So, this is going to be fun. I got this engine pulled up here to help me to do that. This is basically kind of like a this or that thing where it's going to ask me which do you like better, this one or that one. And I'm going to answer all the questions, and then at the end it will have a list of how I ranked every album in my collection. I went ahead and put in every album in my collection into here. Yeah, so I put all my albums on in here, and I took out the ones that I haven't listened to. There's a few records I own, but for some reason I haven't gotten around to listening to, and I think I also took out a couple of the live albums. But other than that, there's about 400 albums in this collection, so this is going to be, again, a very long video, but this will be fun. And then I've been saying for a long time that I need to do an updated top 100 albums of all time video. So this is also going to count as my new top 100 albums. So let's go ahead and check this out. I'm going to hit rank. Yeah, see, it has two albums here, Born in the USA and Power Windows by Rush. You just pick which one you like better, and then at the end it will it'll make a list at the end automatically. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got here. All right. I'm definitely going with Born in the USA for that one. Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park versus Pieces of 8 by Styx. I'm going with that one. Odds and Sods versus Led Zeppelin 2. Led Zeppelin 3, Combat Rock. Chicago. It's going to be hard to do the Roman numeral things. But it's 8, I think. I like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road better. Signals versus Association. Chicago 6 versus Lodger. Chicago 6. Sellout versus Can. Oh, I need to take this one out because I haven't actually listened to the whole thing. So it's really 497 albums in this collection. Okay, One Trick. Oh, there's another one I haven't heard. One Trick Pony by Paul Simon. 495. Okay, Chicago self-titled versus Sheer Heartage. I'm actually going to pick the Chicago self-titled album. Fifth Dimension by the Byrds versus Station to Station. I'm going with Station to Station. No Jacket Required versus Pictures at an Exhibit. Oh, that's Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm going with No Jacket Required. It's Phil Collins. Elephant by the White Stripes versus Houses of the Holy. I'm with that one. Oh, there's another one I haven't heard. On Tour by Herman's Hermits. I thought I would have taken that out because I haven't heard that one completely. Yeah, Anything Is Gonna Be Tornado by Yes. That's a terrible album. I don't know why that's in my collection. My Generation. I'm going to go with this one. 10 by Pearl Jam versus Larry Carlton. Evolution by the Hollies versus Chicago Transit Authority. Larry Carlton Strikes Twice versus Selling It. I actually haven't heard Larry Carlton Strikes Twice, so it's another. I should have gone through and double checked. The Works by Queen versus Quadrophenia. Yeah, who's gonna win that one? Go with that one. Madman Across the Water versus Genesis self-titled album. I'm actually gonna go with Genesis. Regatta de Blanc by the Police versus Beach Boys. Man, Beach Boys today. Three Dog Night versus Double Vision. I'm actually going to go with the Three Dog Night album. Crosby, Stills, and Nash versus BG First. CSN's going to take that. Beach Boys, That's Why God Made the Radio versus Hunky Dory by Bowie is going to win that one. Morning Glory versus Under the Iron. Oasis will win that one. Songs from the Big Chair by Tears for Fears versus Van Halen. Ooh. That's going to be a tricky one. I'm going to put like a slight edge to Van Halen, but that's a close one. Elton John, Rock of the Westies versus Surfer Girl by the Beach Boys. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Surfer Girl by the Beach Boys. All right, I'm just going to take a little brief intermission here, just so that I can go ahead and get something set up. But this is going pretty good right now. Give me just a moment here. All right, so we have Super Unknown by Soundgarden versus Mystery to Me by Fleetwood Mac. I'm going to give that one to Soundgarden there. We got Steely Dan versus ELO. ELO, that's one of my favorite albums out of the blue. Eagles debut album versus Bayou. Yeah, CCR are going to win that one. Piano Man, Billy Joel going for the one Yes. I'm actually going to go with Piano Man. That Yes album isn't really one of my favorites. Let's see. War by U2 versus 52nd Street by Billy Joel. Ooh. Slight edge to Billy Joel, but that's a good U2 record. Yeah, Sgt. Pepper is going to win practically anything, even with Stevie Wonder. Songs in the Key of Life versus Wish You Were Here. Oh, that is a tricky one. Slightly Songs in the Key of Life. Wish You Were Here is that's another tricky one. All right, now we got Boston versus Grand Illusion by Styx. I'm going with Boston. Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music versus Willie and the Poor Boys by CCR. I'm gonna go with that one. Doobie Brothers versus Chicago 3. Chicago 3 is not really one of my favorites, so I'm gonna go with Doobie Brothers. Grand Funk Red Album versus Royal Scam. I like that one. Bridge Over Troubled Water versus Tambourine Man. Got to go Simon and Garfunkel there. James Taylor versus The Verve. Bittersweet Symphony. Got to go that one. Surfing USA versus A Little Help from My... I actually just listened to this album, A Little Help from My Friends. It's actually pretty good, and I'm going to go with that one. The Doors, first album versus Pretzel Logic. Yeah, that's an easy one. Tres Hombres by ZZ Top versus Fleetwood Mac. I'm going with the Fleetwood Mac self-titled album. And we got Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced versus Rio by Duran Duran. I mean, most people would probably pick Jimi Hendrix, but I'm actually going to go with Duran Duran on that one. I love that album. But seriously, I think that's the Phil Collins album. Yeah, but seriously, Folks, which is the Joe Walsh album, versus Queen 2. I'm actually going to go with Phil Collins. But trust me, when we get some other Queen albums, those are going to rank higher. Rod Stewart versus the Cars. That's one of my favorite albums. This is a very easy choice. Aftermath over Street Life Serenade. We got Blind Faith versus Days of Future Past by Moody Blues. I'm going to take a little break here before we got a couple of comments. Every now and then I'm going to check in and see what the comments are saying here. It looks like Nick and Jason are watching. Nick says, I remember you like Tornado. Yeah, it's I liked it the first time I heard it, but it's definitely not Yes's best work. It's very weird album. And Jason says, what's going on, Jason? Thanks for watching. We're making a ranking of every album in my collection by choosing through this one or the other thing. I'm going to give the slight edge to Days of Future Past, but Blind Faith is good too. Okay, now here's a good Yes album, Fragile. I'm actually going to go with Don't Look Back, though. I like that one. Weezer versus Bad Company. Well, I have to. Okay, All Things Must Pass by George Harrison versus And Then There Were Three. That's an easy choice. We got Rush, Hold Your Fire versus Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty. Tom Petty's going to win that one. Doors, LA Woman versus Song Remains. And there's another live album. I'm going to take that out. Rubber Soul versus the Kinks' first album. I wonder which one I'm going to pick there. And then we got Happy Jack versus Joshua. Yeah, that's another easy choice. Coldplay. Okay, we got Coldplay, X and Y versus Raised on Radio by Journey. One of Coldplay's better albums versus one of Journey's not as good albums. Yeah, I'm going to go with Coldplay on that one. Okay, we got some Rush here. Permanent Waves versus The Band. Music from Big Pink. Both great albums, but I like Rush a bit better. And there's another live album, so we got to get rid of that. Okay, we got Bob Dylan, Freewheelin' Bob Dylan versus the Alan Parsons Project, and we're gonna go with Bob on that one. We got this is an interesting one. We got two '90s albums. We got Hootie and the Blowfish versus Radiohead. I'm gonna go with Radiohead on that one. Oh, here's a good one: Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys versus Chicago 16. I'm going with Pet Sounds. Green Day versus Jim Croce. And then this is the Joe Walsh album, but Seriously Folks versus Toto 4. And I'm going with Toto 4. That is a masterpiece of a record. Guess Who, Wheatfield Soul versus Rolling Stones Now. I'm going to go with Wheatfield Soul. These Eyes is such a good song. We got Paul Simon's self-titled album versus Asia by Steely Dan. As much as I like Mother-Child Reunion and Me and Julio, I got to go with Asia. Deep Purple, Machine Head versus Out of Our Heads by the Rolling Stones. If this was against any other album, it would probably win, but since it's up against this masterpiece, I got to go with that one. This is a soundtrack, but I'm going to keep it in the running. This is the Star Wars soundtrack versus Trick of the Tail. Oh, that's actually a tricky one. I'm going to go with Trick of the Tail, but I do really like the Star Wars soundtrack. John Williams is a very genius composer. We got Aerosmith, Toys in the Attic versus Green River by CCR. I'm going with CCR. Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill versus Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited. That's funny because this album is named after a song on this album. And I'm going with Steely Dan. Sorry, Bob. Foreigner 4 versus Frank Sinatra, Wee Small Hours. We're going Foreigner. Elvis's Golden Record. That's a compilation. It's going bye-bye. And that's a live album. I don't know why I didn't sort through these better. Okay, this is going to be a tricky one. Hotel California by the Eagles versus The Wall by Pink Floyd. That's a tricky one. I could really go either way, but I'm gonna pick The Wall for now. But the Eagles is very close. I'm gonna just take a little pause just to see what we have in the comments here. Jason says, so you put every album in this program and they randomly come up. Yes, these are randomly generated, so I have no idea what's going up against what. And then it makes a list whenever I'm done with it. And this is kind of the progress tracker, so it's going to take a little bit. We got Jazz by Queen versus Grace by Jeff Buckley. I'm going to go with Jazz. Three Dog Night, Suitable for Framing. That's their second album versus Grace Under Pressure by Rush. I'm going with Rush. Space Oddity by Bowie versus Paul Simon. Still Crazy After All These Years. We're going with Paul Simon on that one. Yeah, two progressive rock albums. We're going to go with Yes. Fleetwood Mac, Mirage versus Emerson, Lake and Palmer, self-titled. Fleetwood Mac. Coldplay, Rush of Blood to the Head versus Journey, Infinity. Oh, I love both of these records so much. I'm going to go with Infinity. Truth by Jeff Beck versus Synchronicity by The Police. Yeah, we're going to go with The Police there. Billy Joel, Turnstile versus... Yeah, this Alan Parsons album isn't really one of my favorites, so we're going to go with Billy Joel. Led Zeppelin, Untitled versus Human Clay by Creed. Well, as much as I'd like to pick the one with Arms Wide Open, we're going to go with this one. Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle versus Lynyrd Skynyrd's Street Survivors. Zombies. And then we got Christopher Cross versus The Cars. I'm going to go Heartbeat City. I actually haven't listened to this full Ringo album, so we're going to have to take it out. Breakfast in... Yeah, that's a very easy choice. Chicago 13 sucks. Breakfast in America. We got Buffalo Springfield versus Metallica's Black Album. I'm going to go with this one. Okay. What Were Once Vices Are Now Habits by Doobie Brothers versus There Goes Rhyme and Simon. We're going with Paul Simon. Nylon Curtain versus Who Are You? another easy choice. We're going to go with Who Are You here. Now we have Steely Dan Gaucho versus Aladdin Sane by David Bowie. Nick, you'll be glad I'm going to pick Bowie on this one. Chicago 17 versus Future Games by Fleetwood Mac. We're going Chicago. Queen's Debut versus Captain and Me by Doobie. We're going Doobies. The Game by Queen versus Chicago 10. Queen's going to win that one. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway versus Parachutes by Coldplay. I'm actually going to go with Genesis. Stadium Arcadium by Red Hot Chili Peppers versus One of These Nights. Actually a tricky choice. I'm actually going to pick this one, but I love both of those. Elton John Self-Titled versus News of the World. I really like this self-titled Elton John album. News of the World is still probably going to rank pretty high here, though. Okay, we got Foxtrot. Very easy choice. Foxtrot over Empty Sky by Elton John. I love both of these albums, but I know what I'm going to pick. We have Invisible Touch by Genesis versus Revolver, and we are picking Revolver, obviously. The Yes album versus Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, Dark Side of the Moon is going to win that one. Night at the Opera versus Fly By Night by Rush. We're going to go Night at the Opera. Eye in the Sky versus Disraeli. I like Eye in the Sky. That's a good Alan Parsons record. Thriller versus Friends by the Beach Boys. Well, got to go with Michael on that one. Tango in the Night versus Asia. Kansas. Left Overture versus Off the Wall by Michael Jackson. This song has a song called The Wall on it. I'm actually going to go with Kansas here. Let's Dance by David Bowie and Through the Outdoor. We're going to go with Bowie. Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home versus Little Deuce Coupe. Dylan's going to win that one. Nirvana MTV Unplugged versus Cold Spring Harbor by Billy Joel. I think we'll go with Nirvana. That's one of the live albums that I'm actually going to keep on here. Just because it's a very important album, especially in like 90s music history. I am going to keep this Christmas album. This is Bing Crosby's Christmas album versus Cosmo's Factory by CCR. And we're going to go with the CCR there. All right, we got another Bob Dylan. We got Blonde on Blonde and then Radiohead. We're going to go with this one. Ghost in the Machine versus Chicago. Oh, Chicago 14 sucks. So we're going to go with Ghost in the Machine. Chicago 5 versus Farewell to Kings by Rush. We're going to go with Rush. I just have way too many Chicago records. Alan Parsons' Tales of Mystery and Imagination versus Paradise Theater by Styx. This is one of the better Alan Parsons albums. We're going with that one, even though I do like that Styx record. Steppenwolf's first album, Born to Be Wild versus Nursery Crime by Genesis. Genesis. Fleetwood Mac, Heroes Are Hard to Find versus Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi going to win that one. Billy Joel, Stormfront versus Elton John, Caribou. I'm going to go with Elton John. Rolling Stones, Tattoo You versus Genesis, Abacab. We're going to Genesis. And that's a live album, so we're going to have to take that out. Okay, we got a Then Play On versus Smiley Smile. Fleetwood Mac versus Beach Boys. We're going to go with this Fleetwood Mac album. That's not a very good Beach Boys album, even though it has good vibrations on it. This is actually the solo album from the Zombies, Colin Blunstone, and it's going up against a live album, so we're going to have to take the live album out. Let It Be by the Beatles versus Hot Streets by Chicago. That's one of the easiest choices we've had so far. Minute by Minute by Doobie Brothers versus Relayer by Yes. Ooh. Yeah, we're going to go Yes there. Ziggy Stardust versus Viva La Vida. I have a personal soft spot for this record. We're going with that one. Guess Who, Canned Wheat versus Tusk, Fleetwood Mac. Ooh. We'll go with Tusk. And we have another live album, so it's going bye-bye. Duke by Genesis. Ooh, I love both of these, but we're gonna go with Genesis. Something Else by the Kinks versus December's Children by Rolling Stones. We're going to go with Kinks on that one. Innocent Man by Billy Joel versus Janis Joplin, Cheap Thrills. Billy Joel. Foreigner versus Simon and Garfunkel. It's their first record versus Bookends. Man, we're going to go with Bookends. Chicago 18. Oh, that's another easy choice. We're going with Simon and Garfunkel here again. Beach Boys, All Summer Long versus Doors, Soft Parade. Ooh, Beach Boys. Rush, 21. Oh, McCartney 2 is kind of the weird experimental one. We're going to go with Rush there. And we got another compilation. That's the Elvis Worldwide Hits box set. Police, Zenyatta Mondatta versus Simon and Garfunkel, Sounds of Silence. That's... Whew. Okay, we'll go with Simon and Garfunkel there. More Police, Outlandos D'Amour versus Beggar's Bank. Okay, I'm going to pick the Police for that one. Elton John, Blue Moves. I'm actually going to do it. This is my list. Okay, Plastic Ono Band versus Ammonia Avenue by Alan Parsons. We're going to go with John Lennon on that one. Frontiers by Journey versus Tom Petty, Damn the Torpedoes. Oh. The thing is, I want to pick Frontiers, but the B-side just kind of falls off. Sorry, Tom. We're going to go with Journey. Honky Chateau by Elton John versus Moondance. But these are two very comparable albums. I think Honky Chateau gets the slight edge, but Moondance is a great record too. And now we got Turn of a Friendly Card by Alan Parsons versus Vampire Weekend 2000s indie rock album. Yeah, we're gonna go with this one. Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen versus Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. Ooh, now that's a tricky one. I think Bruce is going to get the slight edge, but these are both great. Meatloaf will win that one. Lincoln. Sticks. Led Zeppelin 2 versus the White Album. Well, I'm going to pick the Beatles, but that's a tricky one. Village Green Preservation. Nick is not going to like me for this. I'm going with Led Zeppelin 3. It is better than Combat Rock, though. Who's Next versus Goodbye? Oh. I mean, who's next? But Yellow Brick Road is. Right. Signals by Rush versus Face Value by Phil Collins. I'm going to go with Rush. Yeah, Phil is definitely winning that one. Oh, Union Sucks. We're going with Chicago. And Lodger. Sellout versus Hello, I Must Be Going. Sellout. There's another live album. Low, another Bowie versus Chicago. Self-titled in Chicago. Sheer Heart Attack. We're able to go Bowie on that one. Station to Station versus Turn, Turn, Turn. Bowie wins again. Fifth Dimension. Oh, we got two Birds albums. Do I want to pick traditional Birds or psychedelic Birds? Psychedelic Birds. No Jacket Required versus Octung Baby. Yep, no, U2 is going to win that one, definitely. Leonard Skinner versus Houses of the Holy. I mean, we just did a 1973 video, and this one ranked higher than this one on that video, so I think we know what we're picking here, although I do love Freebird. Leonard Skinner versus... I'm actually going to go with... Am I going to go with Elephant or Leonard Skinner? Yeah, Leonard Skinner. Tommy versus the Beach Boys Christmas album. Yeah, no brainer there. Glass Houses versus Wind and Wuthering. Billy Joel. My Generation versus... I'm actually going to pick this one. And it's no disrespect to My Generation, but it's just because, like, I feel like this one is better, like, as a whole. And My Generation is better than Young Americans, though. And Young Americans is better than that one. Okay, this is going to be interesting. We have The Stranger by Billy Joel versus 10 by Pearl Jam. Both amazing, but I'm going to go with Billy Joel. Beatles for Sale versus Chicago Transit Authority. We're going to go with Chicago here. And now we have Evolution by the Hollies versus Beatles for Sale. Beatles for Sale is probably going to rank somewhere in the mid to bottom range. Tumbleweed Connection versus Selling England by the Pound. That's an easy choice. These are both good, but I'm going to go Who with that one. And we're going to go Queen. 2020. Yeah, that one. That one. Genesis self-titled versus We're an American Band by Grand Funk Railroad. Genesis. Madman. Yeah, Madman. Beach Boys Today versus Toto self-titled. Beach Boys Today. And then we'll go Toto there. Crosby, Stills, and Nash versus Three Dog Night. Yeah, that's an easy one. Bee Gees or Three Dog Night here. Bee Gees. Hunky Dory versus Born to Run. We're going to go with Bruce here. Pig Generator versus Morning Glory by Oasis. That's a really tricky one. Not. And we're going to go Iron Sea there. And then we got Van Halen versus A Hard Day's Night. Ooh. We're gonna go with Van Halen. Songs from the Big Chair. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Tears for Fears. That's weird that I picked two albums over the Beatles, but okay. Surfer Girl versus so we're going with Peter Gabriel. That's a good one. Time and a Word by Yes. Super Unknown, definitely. Mystery to Me by Fleetwood Mac versus Time and a Word by Yes. This one is tricky, not because like they're both good, it's because these are both just kind of. Actually, you know what? Mystery to Me has Hypnotized. Out of the Blue version. Oh, that's a very easy one. Steely Dan. Okay, what do we have here now? Bayou Country versus Ram. I'm going with CCR. Ram versus the Eagles. We'll go with Ram. 52nd Street versus Piano Man. Fleshed Out Billy Joel versus Just Starting Out Billy Joel. We'll go with that one. War by U2 versus Piano. Yeah, U2 is going to win that one. Sgt. Pepper versus. Oh, we got the Beatles versus the Stones for the first time here. And the Beatles are going to win. Stevie Wonder versus the Stones. This is more tricky. I'm going to go with Stones, but if Stevie Wonder stays, he's probably winning the next round. Oh, nope, there he went. Now we got Stevie Wonder versus Derek and the Dominoes, and Stevie Wonder is definitely winning that one. Wish You Were Here versus Derek and the Dominoes. Yeah. Pink Floyd's going to win that one. Boston versus Band on the Run. Those are both great, but I'm going with Boston. Grand Illusion by Styx versus Band on the Run. We'll go Styx. CCR, Willie, yeah, that's a very easy choice. Ray Charles, another easy choice. Doobie Brothers versus Don McLean. We'll go with Don McLean. The Unforgettable Fire by U2 versus The Royal Scam by Steely Dan. Ooh. Well, that's a tricky one. I hope this isn't recency bias, but I'm actually going to go with U2 here. And we got Bridge Over Troubled Water versus McCartney. We're definitely picking Bridge. Mr. Tambourine, yeah, Birds. A Little Help from My Friends versus, Bittersweet Symphony. James Taylor versus A Little Help from My Friends. We'll go with James Taylor. And then we got Yes versus The Doors. I'm going with The Doors. And I'm going to pick Yes over Steely Dan there. Supertramp, Even in the Quietest Moments versus Fleetwood Mac self-titled. Go with Fleetwood Mac. And then I'll pick Supertramp on that one. Bob Dylan's first album versus Duran Duran, Rio. We're going with Duran Duran. And Jimi Hendrix versus, Hendrix. Phil Collins versus Dire Straits. Yeah, we do the walk. We do the walk of life. Rumors by Fleetwood Mac versus The Cars. That's actually tricky. That is actually tricky. Okay, we're gonna go with The Cars, but that is really tricky. Yeah, okay, much easier. Rumors now, much easier choice. Rolling Stones Aftermath versus Journey Escape. We'll go with Journey. Nirvana Nevermind versus Days of Future Past by Moody Blues. I'll go with Nirvana. That one. Just so that it won't take as long. Some of these I'll just click them if I don't feel like it's that interesting of a matchup. Okay. Please Please Me versus All Things Must Pass. Pink Floyd versus Full Moon Fever. Dire Straits versus The Doors, LA Woman. Doors. I've not heard this Rod Stewart album in full, so it gets taken out of the running. Chicago 7 no, YouTube definitely. Chicago 7. Help versus X and Y. We're gonna go with the Beatles. Rush. Band. Bob. Beach Boys. Radio. Hootie. Pet Sounds versus the Court of the Crimson King. Pet Sounds. Chicago 16 versus Court of the Crimson King. Okay. Face the Music by ELO versus Green Day. We're going to go with the ELO there. Rolling Stones, Between the Buttons versus Toto 4. Toto 4. But Seriously, Folks by Joe Walsh for Between the Buttons there. And we got Desperado versus Guess Who? Wheatfield Soul. I'm going to go with Wheatfield Soul here. And then Desperado will win that one. Okay, here we go. Creedence Clearwater Revival's debut versus Asia by Steely Dan. Steely Dan is going to win that one. Paul Simon versus... I'll go with Creedence. Machine Head versus On the Border. That's obviously going to win. Out of Our Heads versus On the Border. Actually going to go with On the Border there. Okay. Trick of the Tail versus Green River. Yeah, Trick of the Tail. Green River versus Star Wars. You know what? Since this is a soundtrack, I'm just going to go ahead and take that out of the running. Taking It to the Streets versus Can't Buy a Thrill. And then Bob is going to win that one. Foreigner 4 versus Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Foreigner is going to win. I think ELP will win that one. And we got With the Beatles versus Wheels of Fire by Cream. Yeah, Wheels of Fire is definitely winning this one. Elton John is going to win that match. And now we got The Wall by Pink Floyd versus Second Helping by Lynyrd Skynyrd. And Pink Floyd is going to win that one. Hotel California versus Second Helping by Lynyrd Skynyrd. Hotel California will win that one. Jazz by Queen versus Yellow Submarine. Yeah, Queen is going to win that one. Yeah, and that's going to win that one. Grace Under Pressure by Rush versus Pendulum by CCR. We're going to CCR. New World Record by ELO versus Still Crazy After All These Years by Paul Simon. Ooh, that's a tricky one. We're going to go with New World Record. Physical Graffiti versus Close to the Edge. Zepp. Zepp again. Crime of the Century versus Infinity. We'll go with Journey. Rush of Blood to the Head versus Crime of the Century. Synchronicity versus Abbey Road. Ooh, I love both of these albums, but Abbey Road will win every match. It's my favorite album. George Harrison versus Billy Joel. We're going to go with Billy Joel here with Turnstiles. George Harrison will win against Alan Parsons. And we're going to go with 4 there. Human Clay by Creed versus Lola versus Power Man by the Kinks. Yeah, we're going to take it higher. Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies versus Holland by the Beach Boys. Yeah, Zombies, one of my favorite albums there. Street Survivors by Lynyrd Skynyrd versus Holland. Yep, Lynyrd. Cars versus Birds. Cars wins. Christopher Cross wins there. Magical Mystery Tour versus Breakfast in America. Oh, no. Don't make me choose between those ones. I'm going to have to go with this one because it has Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane, but Breakfast in America is, like, so good. Okay, Magical Mystery Tour. Chicago 19. Yeah, easy choice. Buffalo Springfield's going to win that one. Meet the Beatles versus There Goes Raymond Simon. Meet the Beatles. Sting, Dream of the Blue Turtles versus Who Are You? Who Are You is going to win that one. And Sting will win against Nylon Curtain. Aladdin Sane versus All That You Can't Leave Behind. I'm going to go with U2. This is a good record. It's a fun 2000s album. Chicago 17 versus Some Girls. Yeah, Stones is going to win that one. Hemispheres by Rush versus Captain and Me. Doobies. Queen versus him. I'll take Rush. The Game versus Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Queen is going to win that one. Chicago 10 versus Genesis. Parachutes versus Chicago 10. Coldplay will take that one. Imagine by John Lennon versus Stadium Arcadium. Yep, Danny, California. We're going with Red Hot Chili Peppers on that one. One of These Nights versus Imagine. Eagles win that one. Elton John versus Chicago 11. We'll go with Elton John. News of the World. Yep, News of the World. Queen wins that one. We got two progressive rock albums. Foxtrot by Genesis versus Tarkus by ELP. And then Genesis is going to win that one. But ELP will win against that early Elton John. Yep, Revolver wins most matches that it gets put up against. Invisible Touch versus Notorious Bird Brothers. We're going with Genesis there. Dark Side of the Moon versus Discovery by Electric Light Orchestra. We'll go with Dark Side of the Moon, but I do love this album. It is better than the Yes album. Trilogy by ELP versus Night at the Opera is going to win most matches that it gets put up against. Fly By Night by Rush will win that one. Eye on the Sky versus... Oh, there's another live album. Live albums get taken out. Okay. Now we have Thriller versus Asia. Thriller will win this one. Asia here. Tango in the Night. Left Overture by Kansas versus Long Run by the Eagles. We'll go with Kansas. Off the Wall versus Long Run. Oh, Long Run. Let's Dance by David Bowie and Waiting for the Sun. We'll go Bowie. Zep. Bringing It All Back Home by Bob Dylan versus Slow Hand by Eric Clapton. We'll go with Dylan. And then Clapton will win that one. Foreigner versus Nirvana. This is an underrated Billy Joel album. Do I want to pick Foreigner? Yeah, I want to know what love is. All right, Metal by Pink Floyd versus Cosmo's Factory. We're going to go with CCR here. Metal by Pink Floyd versus Merry Christmas by Bing Crosby. It's a Christmas album. Let's go ahead and throw that out. Okay. Bee Gees versus Radiohead. Interesting matchup. Blonde on Blonde by Bob Dylan versus Bee Gees. Man, I feel bad making the Bee Gees lose twice. That is a good record. Bad by Michael Jackson versus Ghost in the Machine. Sorry, Michael. You are better than Chicago 14, though. Alan Parsons, Tales of Mystery and Imagination versus Farewell to Kings by Rush. We'll go with Rush. And we'll go with Alan. And Styx. All right, Nursery Crime by Genesis versus Man Who Sold the World by David Bowie. We will go with Genesis. And then Bowie. Then we got Bon Jovi versus Beach Boys Shutdown Volume 2. Bon Jovi will win that one. Heroes Are Hard to Find. Beach Boys will win that one. Okay, Elton John, Caribou versus Beach Boys Smile. I'll give it to the Beach Boys. And then we got Genesis. Oh, there's another live album. So it goes bye-bye. All right, Deja Vu by Creedence Clearwater Revival. Crosby, Stills, and Nash versus Day at the Races by Queen. Queen. Actually, wait. It's Deja Vu. Okay, I'll go with CSNY. It's a good album. All right, we got Red Hot Chili Peppers versus Then Play On by Fleetwood Mac. Yep, that one's winning. Guess Who, American Woman versus Zombie solo album. American Woman. Relayer versus Let It Be. Let It Be's got to win that one. And then Yes will win that one. Minute by Minute by the Doobie Brothers versus Hot Streets by Chicago. Doobie Brothers. Captain Fantastic. Yeah, no, I love this record. Viva La Vida. Ziggy Stardust versus Elton John. Bowie won that one. Tusk by Fleetwood Mac by Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Fleetwood Mac. And guess who won that one? Beach Boys, Summer Day. Oh, no, Rush. Moving Pictures. Gotta win. Duke versus the Monkees. Yeah, Genesis. And that one. Something Else by the Kinks versus Katie Lied by Steely Dan. And Graceland by Paul Simon versus Innocent Man by Billy Joel. Ooh, yeah, Billy Joel. And Paul Simon. Yeah, okay, we got another live album. Kick it out. All Summer Long versus Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme. Simon and Garfunkel. Okay, Rush. Elton. Okay, here we go. We got a Stones matchup. Sticky Fingers versus Exile on Main Street. Go Sticky Fingers. And this is a compilation, so it goes 5x2. Monkees Headquarters versus Police Outlandos D'Amour. We'll go with Police. And Stones. McCartney 3 is not a good record. Blue Moves versus McCartney 3. Frontiers by Journey versus The Bridge by Billy Joel. And Tom Petty will win that one. Born in the USA versus... Ooh. Well, those are both really good albums. If it was Born to Run, it would win, but it's still better than Pieces of Eight. Okay, Zepp 3 versus the White Album. Zepp 2 versus Zepp 3. You know, at one point I would have said 3 is better, but I'm going to go with 2. Odds 3. Rush versus Who's Next. Sellout versus Chicago 6. Heroes by David Bowie. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. This is going to be the battle of the recency bias. My recency bias pick for top album of 2024 versus top album of this year 2026 so far. It may be the recency bias, but U2 is going to win. Bowie will win there. Actually, no, Phil. And then Bowie. Pictures. Oh, Tommy versus Houses of the Holy. I'm actually going to go with Tommy on that one. Beach Boys Christmas album. Leonard Skinner versus the Beach Boys Christmas album. Glass Houses, that's a great album. I'm actually going to go with My Generation here. Okay, Young Americans versus When and Young Americans. All right, Chicago versus the Stranger. 10. Chicago. Evolution. Okay, we have The Who versus Genesis. I'm not a big fan of Tumbleweed Connection by Elton John. I don't know. Genesis, Genesis. Madman Across the Water. Crosby, Stills, and Nash versus Beach Boys Today. This is a very difficult choice. I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Okay, that's a much easier choice. Toto. Reggatta Blanc. Okay, now we have Oasis versus Born to Run. You know, I'm actually going to go with Oasis on this one. This is a very tricky choice. I literally, these are like both perfect albums, but I'm going to go with Oasis on this one. Born to Run. Yep, easy one. Born to Run there. Hunky Dory. So by Peter Gabriel versus Van Halen. Ooh. We'll go with Van Halen. Songs from the Big. Songs from. Ooh. Now we're getting into the tricky ones. So versus Hard Day's Night. I'll actually pick Peter Gabriel there. Hard Day's Night. This is a tricky choice. Out of the Blue versus Super Unknown by Soundgarden. I'm gonna go with Out of the Blue, but that was a close one. Okay, that's a much easier choice. All right, we got Billy Joel versus CCR. Piano Man versus the Eagles. Okay. Now we have two masterpieces up against each other: Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band versus Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. I mean, this is one of my favorites, but like, it's still a tricky choice, even though I have to pick this one. That's an easier choice. Boston versus CCR, and CCR will win here. Grand Illusion by Styx. Band on the Run. Okay, Unforgettable Fire by U2 versus American Pie. U2 wins. Steely Dan. Bridge Over Troubled Water. James Taylor. Birds. McCartney. Doors. Fleetwood. Yes. Supertramp. ZZ Top. Duran Duran. Hendrix. Phil. Queen. Escape versus the Cars. Okay, this is a tricky one. Journey versus I'm gonna pick Journey, but that's like a really, really, really close choice. And the Cars will win there. Rumors. Stones. Rod Stewart. Nirvana. Boston. Yes. Moody Blues. Blind Faith. Okay. Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever versus All Thing Yeah. Tom Petty will win here. Pink Floyd versus George Harrison. I'm actually gonna pick this. I used to hate this album, but it's really kind of growing on me since I got a copy of it. So Pink Floyd's debut will actually beat the Beatles' debut. Hold Your Fire. Yeah, nope. Beatles will win there, and then Rush will win here. Rubber Soul is definitely winning here. Dire Straits versus Kinks. Dire Straits. Joshua Tree versus Help. Now here is it. I mean, this has Yesterday, Ticket to Ride. This has Where the Streets Have No Name. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Am I actually picking U2? I think I am. But that's a much easier choice with Help. Right? What is it? 7 or 8? 7. Free Will and Bob Dylan versus Permanent Waves. We'll go with Permanent Waves. We'll go with the band. And Bob Dylan. Surf's Up. Pet Sound. Oh. Some people are going to think that this is an easy choice or that it's kind of actually tricky. I'm going to go with Pet Sounds. I'm going to pick Radiohead there. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm actually picking Hootie and the Blowfish over King Crimson. So all you prog rock fans are going to be very upset. But I already did it. And there's a Christmas album. That goes bye-bye. All right, Face the Music. Toto 4. Between the Buttons. You Don't Mess Around with Jim. Asia. Wheatfield Soul. Desperado. Credence. Paul Simon. Paul Simon. Trick of the Tail. Oh! That is a trick. That's a tricky one. Trick of the Tail by Genesis versus Machine Head by Deep Purple. I'm going to go with Genesis, but... Green River. On the Border. Out of Our Heads. Steely Dan. Bob. Foreigner. Doobies. Elton John. Beatles. That's kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel there, though. The Wall versus Jazz. Okay. I love Queen and I love Pink Floyd, but I'm going to go with that one. Hotel California. Second Helping versus Jazz. Oh, that's another tricky one. Gonna give the slight edge to Leonard Skinner. Pendulum versus New World Record. Still Crazy After All These Years. Space Oddity versus Pendulum. Grace Under Pressure. Space Oddity. Physical Graffiti. Close to the Edge. Zepp. Fleetwood Mac. Abbey Road. Yeah, Abbey Road always wins. Synchronicity. Infinity. Rush of Blood to the Head. Crime of the Century by Supertramp versus Truth by Jeff Beck. I'll go with Jeff Beck. And that one's going to win. Billy Joel. Creed. Harrison. Kinks. Heartbeat City versus Odyssey and Oracle. We'll go with the Zombies. Cars. Skinnerd. Christopher Cross. Birds. Beatles will win here. And then Supertramp. Oh, that's an easy one. Chicago 13 is not a good album. Who Are You versus Meet the Beatles. We'll go with Who Are You. Meet the Beatles. Sting. Simon. Doobies. Rolling Stones. Some Girls versus All That You Can't Leave Behind by U2. Call it recency bias, but I'm picking U2. And then I'll pick the Stones here. Bowie. Chicago. I'm actually putting Gaucho over Future Games. Captain and Me by Queen is definitely one in here. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Captain and Me. Coldplay. Rush. Queen. Elton John self-titled versus Stadium Arcadium by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Am I actually gonna do it? Is this recency bias as well? I'll do it. One of these nights. No, this is another tricky one. We're going with Elton John, but that's tricky. News of the World versus when we're going to Queen. Okay, now I can finally confidently say that one of these nights is better than that album. Imagine by John Lennon versus Chicago 11. We're going to go with Imagine. Okay, Revolver by Genesis versus Foxtrot. We'll go with the Beatles. Invisible Touch. Yep, we're selling out today. We're going with Invisible Touch over Foxtrot, and I probably pissed off a bunch of people there, but that's just my list. Foxtrot is better than Notorious Bird Brothers. Tarkus, we'll go with Bird Brothers there. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Don't make me choose between these two. That is tricky. Night at the Opera by Queen versus Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Both of these albums are on my record wall behind me. We're gonna go with Queen though. Now I can confidently pick Pink Floyd there. I'm gonna go with ELO. Yes. Thriller. Asia. Cream. Kansas. Bowie. Eagles. Zepp. Michael Jackson. Nirvana. Dylan. Clapton. Foreigner. Billy Joel. Okay, there we go. Now what do we have here? Oh. No. We got another tricky one. Well, I'll go with that one. Oh, this is tricky too, but I'm still going with Creedence there. Pink Floyd. Police. Michael Jackson. Rush. Alan Parsons. Styx. Chicago. Bon Jovi versus Genesis. I'll go with Bon Jovi. Genesis. Bowie. Steppenwolf's first album versus Beach Boys. Beach Boys will win here. I'm actually going to go with Genesis there. And then we'll pick Beach Boys, and then we'll pick Caribou and Stones. Oh. Here's another one where the recency bias might be coming in. These are both great, but I'll go with. I'll forgo the recency bias, and we'll pick Deja Vu here. But I am going to put that over the Day at the Races. Sorry. Then pick Day at the Races. Let It Be versus American Woman. We'll go with Let It Be. American Woman. Player. Minute by Minute. Okay. Tusk by Fleetwood Mac versus Viva La Vida. Ziggy Stardust. Fleetwood Mac. Guess Who. Elton John. Oh, Genesis versus Rush. We'll go with Rush. And Genesis. Billy Joel. Paul Simon. Parsley Sage, Rosemary and Thyme versus Bookends. Battle of the Simon and Garfunkels. Sticky Fingers versus 2112. That's tricky. We'll go with the Stones, but I will go with Rush over Exile. And then we'll go Exile over Tool over Zero. Sounds of Silence versus Outlandos. Goes Sounds of Silence. And Zenyatta Mondatta over Outlandos. I know people hate it, but I'm going to pick it. I actually like that record. Okay, Blue Moves versus iRobot. We'll go with Elton John. Pretty much anything beats McCartney 3. His voice sounds so old. We'll go with Journey here. Tom Petty, Elton John, Moondance. Oh, well, I'm gonna go with the White Album, but those are both great. Power Windows is a good Rush album, but it's not one of my favorites. Here we go. We got Battle of the Who's, and who's next is gonna win? Yellow Brick Road one here. Sellout over Signals. Signals over. Hello, I Must Be Going. That's a pretty good Phil album. Face Value. Again with the Roman numerals. Oh, Union. That album sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be the very bottom of the barrel. Are you going to be able to finish this in one night? Is the question. Yes, I'm gonna try to hurry it up with some of these. All right. Starting with ones like this, where it's really easy to tell. I'm actually going to put Heroes over Station to Station now. It's a Christmas album. Get rid of it. Actually, I'm going to go with that one. Okay, here's a weird one. Tumbleweed Connection by Elton John versus Beatles for Sale by the Beatles. Actually, I do like Beatles for Sale better. Crosby, Stills, and Nash versus Genesis self-titled. We'll go with CSN. Bee Gees first. Bee Gees. Double Vision. Yes's first album is okay. Now we got another tricky one. Van Halen versus Oasis. I'm gonna give it to Oasis, but like barely. Born to Run. Go with Born to Run. Now we can do Van Halen. Songs from the Big Chair versus Bowie. Okay, we'll go with Tears for Fears. So versus Bowie. Hard Day's Night versus Hard Day's Night. Surfer Girl versus Bowie will win. Now Bowie will win. Oh, now we're really reaching the bottom of the barrel. Countdown to Ecstasy versus Going for the One. Oh, this is really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Boston versus Sergeant Pepper. Okay, now we're getting like best of the best here. So, they're trying to rank all the best albums now. You know, the good ones here. Oh, actually, Mr. Tambourine Man. A little help from my friends. Oh, not a big fan of Chicago 3. Rio versus the Doors. Oh, Hendrix. Bob Dylan's first album is okay. Oh no, that's now we got another tricky one. Nirvana versus Journey. We're gonna go with Journey. We'll go Nirvana there. Cars. Fleetwood Mac. Stones. Bad Company is good, but it's like not the best. Rubber Soul. Full Moon Fever. Actually, that's their first album. Surf's Up by the Beach Boys. Chicago 7. Race on Radio. Okay, we got Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Oh, I love both of those. Just barely. And then Face the Music. Toto 4. We'll go with Hootie. Trick of the Tail. Oh. Another tricky choice. Oh. Man, they're getting some tricky ones in there. Want to do that. With the Beatles. With the Beatles is okay. In the Wee Small Hours by Frank Sinatra. That's a pretty good record. The Wall versus New. Oh, now we're on the tricky ones again. I'm gonna go with The Wall. New World Record versus Hotel. Getting really tricky here. Yellow Submarine is not that great. It's still better than the Three Dog Night album, though. Abbey Road always wins. Synchronicity, Infinity, Rush of Blood to the Head. People are going to murder me for putting Coldplay ahead of Led Zeppelin. Truth by Jeff Beck. Close to the Edge. Crime of the Century. Zeppelin 4 versus Zombies, Odyssey, and Oracle. That's tricky. Turnstiles. Cars. Street Survivors. I'm actually going to put Creed over Christopher Cross. That's crazy. We're going to have some hot takes on this video. Who Are You versus Magical Mystery Tour. Breakfast in America. Meet the Beatles versus... Yeah. Wait. Chicago 19 versus there goes Raymond Simon. We'll go with Paul Simon. Doobies. Chicago. As much as I don't like that Billy Joel album, that Chicago album is just not good. Oh, U2, All That You Can't Leave Behind versus The Game by the Queen. We'll have Queen win there. No recency bias here. We'll go with Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Captain and Me. I am going to go with U2 ahead of Parachutes by Coldplay. Hemispheres. Stones. Queen. Bowie. Chicago. Revolver versus Stadium Arcadium. I'm going to go with Revolver. I am going to put Stadium Arcadium over Invisible Touch, though. I'm putting Elton John here. News of the World versus... I'll go with Invisible Touch. News of the World. One of These Nights. Foxtrot. Imagine. Bird Brothers. We're reaching the halfway point. We are almost to the halfway point. Oh, no. Do not make me pick between Thriller and A Night at the Opera. Please don't make me pick between these two. I've got to go Night at the Opera, but that's not easy. Thriller versus Dark Side of the Moon. Thriller. Dark Side of the Moon. Yellow. Alan Parsons. Asia. Yes Album. Tango in the Night versus Fly By Night. I don't even know what to pick here. Let's go with that one. Friends by the Beach Boys. Leftoverture. Bowie versus Let's Dance. Long Run. Off the Wall. Bringing It All Back Home. Slow Hand. Waiting for the Sun. Okay, we really are getting close to the halfway point now. Cosmos Factory. Ghost of the Machine. Blonde on Blonde. Bad. Bee Gees or Rush? Do I go with Bee Gees or Rush? I have no idea. We'll pick Rush. Alan Parsons. Styx. Bee Gees. Bon Jovi. Okay, Deja Vu versus Let It Be. We'll go Let It Be. And then Deja Vu against American Woman. We got Relayer and then Play On. Minute by Minute. Hot Streets is not a very good Chicago album. Moving Pictures versus Viva La Vida. We'll go with Moving Pictures. Ziggy Stardust. Sounds like someone is listening to Under Pressure. Okay, Birds, Bees, and the Monkey Eats Child's Father of the Man. Bookends versus Innocent Man. Innocent Man. Bookends. Parsley Sage. Foreigner first album. Soft Parade. Sticky Fingers, 2112, Exile. Kind of getting down to how many studio albums do you think you have? So, according to my, I don't know about studio albums specifically. I have 411 records, but some of these are compilations and live albums. So, we're gonna have to find out. It's a lot though. Headquarters, Frontiers. I need to listen to Blue Moves again. Maybe it'll rank higher if I listen to it again. Oh no. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Who's Next versus the White Album? Are you kidding me? This may be actually impossible. I don't know. I'm going to go with the White Album, but that's very tricky. Sorry, Phil. There, now Phil won. Chicago 8, not a very good album. Oh. Well, another tricky one. Now you're playing with the big boys. Who's Next versus the Beatles? Yeah, I went with the White Album, but that was like almost impossible. This is another tricky one. Octung Baby by U2 versus Tommy. Like, how do you even do this? Recency bias. Hopefully, forgive me. Okay, Tommy definitely versus No Jacket Required. Actually, Sheer Heart Attack versus, yeah, Sheer Heart Attack. My Generation. Young Americans. Fifth Dimension versus When in Wuthering. Now we're reaching the bottom of the barrel. Tornado by Yes. I'm not trying to be mean to the Hollies. We're just hitting a streak of albums I like better. Oh, no, 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 no. Now we got another tricky one. Oasis versus Yellow. Oh, now we got Oasis versus Soundgarden. What am I supposed to do here? Okay, we'll go with Soundgarden. And then Oasis. Born to Run. Van Halen. Songs from the Big Chair. So, Hard Day's Night. Billy Joel. David Bowie. CCR. U2. McCartney. Eagles. Beach Boys. Elton John. Billy Joel. Fleetwood Mac. Sgt. Pepper versus Bridge Over Troubled Water, another tricky one. Actually, we'll go with Stones there. Oh, yeah, Stevie Wonder. Right. It keeps picking the bottom of the barrel stuff now. Oh. Now we're back at the top again. We got two Yes albums. I want old Yes or new Yes. We'll go first. Days of Future Past, Blind Faith, 90125. Seriously, Queen 2, Quietest Moments, Trace Reyes, Rod Stewart, Pretzel Logic over Bad Company. A little spoiler for our 1974 video. We'll do Bad Company over Bob Dylan's debut. Oh no, we got another tricky one. Rubber Soul versus Joshua Tree. Gotta go with Rubber Soul though. Actually. Now it's reaching the bottom of the barrel again. Trick the Talon Pet Sounds. Wow. Another tricky one. And then it goes right back to the top. Okay, it looks like we're actually reaching the halfway point. I'm going to have to do these a lot faster. I'm just going to use the buttons down here and it'll make it go by a lot faster. Paul Simon versus Chicago 16. Okay, now I think I can see where I can... Oh. Nope, never mind. We'll have to do it like this. Taking it to the streets versus Pendulum. Oh, Led Zeppelin 4 versus Abbey Road. Well, that's going to be tricky. But, I mean, I know what I'm picking, but... Actually, you know what? Mirage by Fleetwood Mac versus Christopher Cross. Oh. Magical Mystery Tour versus... Now we got Queen versus the Beatles. That's just not even right. Wait, oh, I hit the wrong one. We're going with Chicago there. A Night at the Opera versus Revolver. Are you kidding? Ah. I'm actually going to go with Queen. Revolver versus Thriller. 2 in a row? Okay. We'll pick Revolver there. Now we'll go with Thriller. Oh, let me make sure I hit the right one. Thriller. Dark Side of the Moon. Stadium Arcadium. Elton John. Invisible Touch. News of the World. One of These Nights. Yellow. Foxtrot versus Eye in the Sky. Eye in the Sky. Foxtrot. Asia. Yes Album. Disraeli Gears. Imagine. Tango in the Night. Notorious Bird Brothers. Fly by Night. Chicago 11. Bob Dylan, Bad. Off the Wall. Some of these choices are just so tricky. And getting to the bottom of the barrel again. Okay, now we're on the good ones. Rolling Stones. Tattoo You versus Smiley Smile. Actually, what did I do that for? That's got Don't Worry Baby on it. Moving pictures. Frontiers versus Sticky Fingers. Oh. Too Low for Zero. Oh, we got two Elton John albums now. Too Low for Zero versus Blow Moves. This is difficult for me. White Album versus Octane Baby. We'll go with the White Album. And now we're going to go with Who's Next. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road versus Tommy. Oh. It's doing that bottom of the barrel thing again. Okay, we're over halfway now. I'm trying to speed things up so that we can get to the big reveal here at the end. CCR versus Toto. Interesting. And we're getting down to the bottom of the barrel again. Actually, I haven't even listened to this full Larry Carlton album, so we have to take it out. Escape versus Sgt. Pepper. That's tricky. What we got now? Fragile, Grand Funk Railroad. It's getting to the bottom of the barrel. American Pie is good, but I just haven't listened to it very much. Pet Sounds versus Rubber Soul. There's another tricky one. It's starting to drag now. I need to hurry up and just do this fast. I want to figure out what the ranking is. Toys in the Attic versus Surf's Up. Creedence Clearwater Revival. Chicago 16. Wait, why did I do that? Synchronicity. Hotel California. Turnstiles versus Jazz. Oh. All right, Jason, have a good night. I'll try to make a separate video that's just the list so that you don't have to watch all the way to the end. It's not going to be a long night. Human clay versus taken to the streets. This is really scraping the bottom of the barrel now. Night at the Opera versus Magical Mystery Tour. Okay, that's a good one. Foxtrot versus Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Empty Sky, not a good album. Chicago 13, not a good album. All right, now we got well, that is not moving very fast. Chicago 14 may be the worst record in my collection. I just keep second guessing myself. Out of the blue versus who's next. That's not even fair. Okay, now it's going a little faster. Okay, what else we got here? Chicago 6. Tornado sucks. Keep second guessing myself. Oh, I hit the wrong one. That was not second guessing myself. All Things Must Pass versus Layla. That's a tricky one. There we go. There we go. Now we're moving along again. Street Swimmers versus Captain and Me. Hit the wrong one. We're getting close. Hopefully, I'm ready to figure out what this list actually is. Taking it to the streets. Moving pictures versus let it be. Ooh. Tricky. Bringing it all back home versus sounds of silence. Let's see. Hit the wrong one again. Oh, Sgt. Pepper versus the White Album. That's tricky. Actually, wait. Wait, never mind. Wrong one again. You could tell I'm getting tired now. We're almost there, though. Okay. Pieces of 8 versus Brothers in Arms. I had Man Across the Water or Blind Faith. Dire Straits versus Chicago 6. We go to Dire Straits. Rod Stewart versus Chicago 6. Never mind. Hit the wrong thing. Moving pictures versus Night at the Opera. It's a lot trickier than you'd think. Actually, no. Why would I put that on there? Let's do that. Oh, wait, no, I do like that Billy Joel record. I do like it better than Physical Graffiti, though. Let's see. Oh, wait, no, we're going to go with Elton John on that one. We're getting very close. We are getting very close. So we'll get to see what the list is in just a second. We're getting close. We are getting closer. Look at that. We just have that much left. Okay, what we got here? Return of a friendly card versus suitable for friendly for framing, however it is. Actually, no, wait. I have a feeling that was just sorting my top 10 albums. Jimi Hendrix versus Bon Jovi. Oh, why did I do that? I wanted to do Steely Dan. John Bon Jovi. Actually, no, that's all right. Yeah, hats off to Roy Harper. It's a deciding factor in some of these with that one. And Elton John is just not getting a win. There we go. Now we got one. Why did I do that? Look back at the long run. We're getting down to it now. Oh, yep, there we go. We're getting super close to getting to this. You can probably tell I'm getting tired because I'm not talking anymore. I'm just pushing the buttons. Okay. Actually, I think I like Elton John better. Dance by Van Morrison versus Creedence Clearwater Revival debut. Man, Creedence just cannot catch a break here for their first album. Okay, there we go. There we go. Taking It to the Streets versus actually, I do like it better than Fly By Night. Oh, wow, we got 5 people watching. I'm sorry I'm not talking. I was talking a lot more earlier, but I'm getting tired, so I'm kind of just trying to hurry through. Maybe I can talk a little bit more now that we have more people on here. If I'm picking the album that you wouldn't pick, leave it down in the comments. But we're getting really close to getting to see what my my ranking of every album in my collection is. So, Three Dog Night, Surfer Girl, Rock the Westies, Bee Gees First. I'll help for my friends. Oh, it's getting so close. But seriously, folks, versus Space Oddity. Actually, I'm going to put Beatles for Sale over with the Beatles. Yellow Submarine. Oh, we're really getting down to it now. This is literally the bottom of the barrel. It's literally getting to the bottom of the barrel. Whew, that's a terrible choice. Chicago 13 versus Tornado. Those are both bad. I'm going to just go with Chicago 13 because it at least has a street player on it. McCartney 3 sucks. Chicago 14 sucks, like worse than anything else, though. I think it's going to be my least favorite. No, never mind. Union sucks. Okay. There we go. We finally got our list. Let me just copy that too. Copy that to here. And we are going to stop this and instead share this. Okay, so this is the final list. This is the final list. This is what we were going through. This is what we've been waiting for. All right. Looks like there's 374 different studio albums here on this list. I had to take out some that I've never listened to and some live albums, some Christmas albums and stuff like that. But here we go. Okay. Last place, Union by Yes. Not surprising. 373, Chicago 14. 372, Along Comes the Association. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this here. McCartney 3. Tornado. Chicago 13. Chicago 18. Eve. Stereotomy. Some of these Alan Parsons albums are ones that I just haven't really listened to that much. I think it stopped sharing. Well, I'm going to have to just hit this one more time. There we go. All right, now it's back. Okay, where were we here? Gaudi, 1 Year by Colin Blunstone of the Zombies. I'll only listen to that out. Yeah, some of these are ones that I just haven't listened to that much. That's probably why they're ranked so low. Anyway, what we have now. Pyramid by Alan Parsons, Trilogy by ELP, Empty Sky, Elton John, Kinks' first album, Ammonia Avenue by Alan Parsons, Suitable for Framing, Three Dog Night, Turn of a Friendly Card, McCartney 2, Bob Dylan, Street Life Serenade, then there were 3, Chicago 3, Time and a Word, This Was by Jethro Tull, Going for the One by Yes, Big Generator, Bridge, Headquarters by the Monkees, Holland by the Beach Boys, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Yellow Submarine, That's Why God Made the Radio, Nylon Curtain, Chicago 19, 338, December's Children and Everyone's, Rolling Stones, Something Else by the Kinks, Hot Streets, Happy Jack, Birds, Bees and the Monkees, Childless Father to the Man, Smiley Smile, Surfing USA, McCartney 1, Tumbleweed Connection, Yes, Chicago 8, Little Deuce Coupe, Future Games, What Are Once Vices Are Now Habits, Friends, Rolling Stones Now, Turn, 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 Is This It, Fifth Dimension, Countdown to Ecstasy, Lola vs. Power Man, and The Money Go Round, Part 1. Wind and Wuthering by Genesis, Pictures at an Exhibition by ELP, Combat Rock, Thick as a Brick, Power Windows with the Beatles, Mystery to Me, Lodger, Beatles for Sale, Evolution. Some people are going to say, why is Gaucho so high? There Goes Ryman Simon, Piano Man, Heroes Are Hard to Find, Bad Company, Tarkus, Chicago 6, Chicago 11, Steppenwolf, Shutdown Volume 2, Space Oddity, Hold Your Fire, Toulouse Street, Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music by Ray Charles, American Pie, But Seriously Folks by Joe Walsh, Little Help from My Friends by Joe Cocker, Pretzel Logic, Steely Dan, Rod Stewart album, iRobot, Katie Lied, Cheap Thrills, Janis Joplin, Dire Straits, Daniel Powder, Double Vision, Foreigner, Bee Gees First, Rock of the Westies, Surfer Girl, Three Dog Night, Paul Simon, Grace Under Pressure by Rush, 2020 Beach Boys, In the God of Davida, Iron Butterfly, We're an American Band, Grand Funk Railroad, Village Green Preservation Society, Kinks, Fly By Night, Rush, Odds and Sods, Who, Caressa Steel, Rush, Younger Than Yesterday, Birds, Cloud 9, George Harrison, Chicago 17, We Small Hours, Frank Sinatra, Notorious Bird Brothers, The Byrds, Pendulum, CCR. Got some ELP, Taking It to the Streets, Stormfront, Chicago 16, Tattoo You, Rolling Stones, Then Play On, Fleetwood Mac, Creedence Clearwater Revival, CCR, Chicago 10, Tango in the Night, Fleetwood Mac, Blue Moves, Elton John, Chicago 5, Too Low for Zero, Elton John, Beggar's Banquet, Rolling Stones, Moondance, Van Morrison, more Elton John, Captain Fantastic, Atlantis D'Amour, Police, Zenyatta Mondatta, Police, Imagine, John Lennon, Cold Spring Harbor, Billy Joel. We got some Foreigner, Radiohead, and Disraeli Gears by Cream featuring Eric Clapton, David Bowie, 239, Sting, 238, Doors, Mirage, Mr. Tambourine Man, Trace Hombres, Men Who Sold the World, You Don't Mess Around with Jim, James Taylor, Raised on Radio. There we got Please Please Me by the Beatles, Grand Funk, Red Out. Why is that higher than We're an American Band? I actually liked We're an American Band better. I guess this list isn't like definitive. I don't know. Chicago 7, I think that's 7. Even in the Quietest Moments, Pink Floyd, Yes Album, Desperado, Christopher Cross, Asia, Crime of the Century, Supertramp, Queen, Regatta de Blanc, Creed, Human Clay, Buffalo Springfield, 216, Soft Parade, Doors, Wheels of Fire, 214, Bee Gees, Spirits Haven't Flown, Slow Hand, Nursery Crime Between the Buttons, LA Woman, Doors, Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player, Summer Days and Summer Nights, Queen 2, Truth by Jeff Beck, Wheatfield Soul by Guess Who. And then we have But Seriously, Phil Collins, Toys in the Attic, Surf's Up, Young Guns, David Bowie coming in at 200. We're in the top 200 now. My Generation, Sunflower, Sheer Heart Attack, Face Value, Signals, Canned Wheat, Guess Who, Low, David Bowie, Graceland, Paul Simon, Ram, 90125, Yes, Blind Faith, The Mad Band Across the Water, Hello, I Must Be Going by Phil Collins, Selling England by the Pound, Sounds of Silence, Days of Future Past, Fragile, Paradise Theater, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, and Edgar Allan Poe, Bob Dylan, Bringing It All Back Home, Farewell to Kings, All Summer Long, Out of Our Heads, Minute by Minute, Nirvana Unplugged, Some Girls, Rolling Stones, and Court of the Crimson King, All Things Must Pass, Hockey Chateau, Elton John, Foreigner, Hemispheres, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, Bookends, Meatloaf, Morias, American Woman, Guess Who, Tom Petty, Tusk, Innocent Man, Vampire Weekend, Funeral. So there's your 2000s albums there. Ziggy Stardust, Exile on Main Street, War by U2, Parachutes, Coldplay, All That You Can't Leave Behind by Coldplay. U2. That's Coldplay. That's U2. I was thinking because there's two U2s there. Now we're at 153, Foxtrot, Genesis, Led Zeppelin debut, Jeff Buckley, Yes, Street Survivors, Franz Ferdinand, Under the Iron Sea, Layla, Off the Wall, Michael Jackson, 144, In Through the Outdoor, 143, Michael Jackson again at Bad, 142, Bayou Country, 141, Blonde on Blonde. Okay, sorry, Bob, didn't quite make it there. Metal, 140, Long Run, Eagles, Toto, Boston, Doobie Brothers, Meet the Beatles on the Border, Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Metallica, Hootie and the Blowfish, Bob Dylan, Band, Band on the Run, Fleetwood Mac, Grand Illusion, Foreigner 4. Okay, we're getting into like all 10 out of 10s here now. Highway 61 Revisited, still crazy after all these years. Wow, these didn't make it to the top 100. Green River, CCR, Hunky Dory, David Bowie, Caribou. Wow, Caribou got higher than I thought it would. Willie and the Poor Boys, Pieces of 8, X and Y, Coldplay, Brothers in Arms, American Idiot, Full Moon Fever, Elephant, White Stripes, Station to Station, David Bowie, Chicago, self-titled, pronounced Leonard Skinner, Heroes, 52nd Street, Zeppelin 3, Jazz, Glass Houses, Born in the USA, Ghost in the Machine, The Works. And here we are with the top 100. Looks like he did make it after all. Number 100, here's David Bowie with Let's Dance. Number 99, and I'll probably make a separate video with just the top 100. Genesis with their self-titled. 98, Who. 97, Chicago Transit Authority, debut. 96, Beach Boys Today by the Beach Boys. 95, Who Sell Out. 94, After Rolling Stones. 93, Heartbeat City, Cars. 92, Left Overture by Kansas. 91, Physical Graffiti. 90, Day at the Races by Queen. 89, Turnstiles, Billy Joel. 88, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. 87, Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill. 86, Second Helping, Leonard Skinner. 85, Eye in the Sky, Alan Parsons. 84, Smile, Beach Boys. 83, Abacab, Genesis. 82, Bon Jovi. 81, Steely Dan, Royal Scam. 80, Are You Experienced, Jimi Hendrix. 79, Unforgettable Fire, U2. 78, Intervision, Stevie Wonder. 77, Frontiers, Journey. 76, Discovery, ELO. 75, Duke, Genesis. 74, we got more Stones. 73, Rush of Blood to the Head, Coldplay. We got a double Coldplay. 72, Viva La Vida. 71, Infinity. 70, 2112, Rush. 69, we got Bittersweet Symphony. 68, One of These Nights by the Eagles. 67, we got Red Hot Chili Peppers. 66, Linkin Park. 65, Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. 64, No Jacket Required by Phil Collins. 63, The Game by Queen. 62, Who Are You? 61, Sticky Fingers by the Stones. 60, Led Zeppelin 2. 59, Permanent Waves by Rush. 58, Deja Vu, CSNY. 57, News of the World by Queen. 56, So, Peter Gabriel. 55, Toto 4. 54, Face the Music, ELO. 53, Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. 52, Rio, Duran Duran. 51, Weezer. 50, Songs from the Big Chair by, what's their names? Everyone Wants to Rule the World, people. Tears for Fears, it's getting late. Invisible Touch, Genesis at 49. Asia, Steely Dan at 48. Van Halen at 47. Born to Run, 46. New World Record, 45. Bridge Over Troubled Water, 44. Stevie Wonder, 43. Songs in the Key of Life, 42. Benz, 41. Elton John, 40. Houses of the Holy, 39. Stadium Arcadium. Red Hot Chili Peppers make top 40. That's good. Machine Head, 38, 37, Trick of the Tail, 36, Odyssey and Oracle. We're getting into like the really good stuff here now. 35, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. 34, Synchronicity. 33, Help. 32, Joshua Tree. 31, Tommy. 30, Hotel California. 29, Octung Baby, YouTube. Yeah, recency bias probably, but it's up pretty high. 28, Dark Side of the Moon. 27, Cosmos Factory. 26, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac. 25, The Cars. 24, Morning Glory. 23, 10. 22, Nirvana. 21, Michael Jackson, Thriller. 20, Breakfast in America. 19, OK Computer. 18, Super Unknown, Soundgarden. 17, The Wall by Pink Floyd. 16, Stranger by Billy Joel. 15, Let It Be. 14, Pet Sounds. 13 Escape Journey, 12 Led Zeppelin 4, 11 Rubber Soul, and here we have top 10. It's a lot of Beatles. Number 10, Magical Mystery Tour. Number 9, Revolver. Number 8, Out of the Blue by ELO. Number 7, Night at the Opera by Queen. 6, Moving Pictures. 5, Who's Next. 4, Beatles, White Album. 3, Boston. 2, Sgt. Pepper. And number 1, Abbey Road. 5 of my top 10 is all the Beatles. So, okay, that's going to be the end of this video. It's a very long video. I'll probably do another separate video talking about the top 100, but that's going to be it for tonight. I'm very tired and I just ranked a lot of albums. Good night, everybody.